You know, most of this year, you and I have been focused on the economic havoc wreaked by the coronavirus on the middle class and all of America. But what we missed and failed to notice was a tiny sliver of the super, super rich at the apex of our economy were actually fattening their already phenomenal fortunes thanks to the pandemic. Sounds odd, sounds contrary to normal economic results, and it is. But the truth of the matter is the coronavirus has actually sharpened, deepened, widened the economic inequality, the yawning gulf between the super rich and the rest of us. It's as if they live on different planets, two different planets. On one planet, you got 118 million Americans who suffered job losses and pay cutbacks and losses of work time. And on the other planet, you have 650 billionaires who added $1 trillion. Listen to that, $1 trillion to their already astronomical wealth. It's amazing. It's more than 3 times the amount of money the federal government doled out to 150 million Americans last spring with those personal checks. And the fact that the ultra-rich can make phenomenal windfall profits, at the same time you've got 80 million Americans telling the Census Bureau they don't have enough money to pay the rent or to put enough food on the table, tells you there's an enormous chasm between Wall Street and Main Street, and between a disconnect between the financial markets and the real economy. Because the power of the market was what sent those billionaires up into the stratosphere. They were making enormous money off what Wall Street loves to call the FANG: Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and companies like that. High-tech companies that were perfectly positioned to make enormous profits of our almost total dependence on the web, the internet, the tube, social media, and online shopping and buying. And when you look at the scorecard put together by Forbes magazine, which has been tracking the ultra-rich for a very long time, it's a shocker. Take Jeff Bezos, richest man in the world, CEO of Amazon, who made $13 billion on one day on the stock market in July, and overall during the year added $88 billion to his fortune. So right now, they reckon Jeff Bezos is worth $200 billion. And number 2, Elon Musk, the guy who started Tesla, the electric car vehicle plant, and is now involved in SpaceX as a space entrepreneur. He multiplied his fortune 5-fold from $25 billion to $124 billion this year. Mark Zuckerberg, the babyface founder of Facebook, he saw his fortune shoot up from $55 billion to $101 billion, nearly double. And so it goes on down the line. 650 billionaires, 47 of whom made it into that elite billionaires club this year because of the rocketing profits on Wall Street. Well, you might say economic inequality, not exactly a new story in America. It's been going on for a long time. Yes, since the early 1980s, it's been building, decade by decade. It's so much so that by the beginning of this year, before the coronavirus, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the coalition of 34 most advanced economies, rated the United States number 1, the most unequal economy in the world. Now, economic inequality, of course, has been a hot issue for a couple of decades, especially since Occupy Wall Street burst onto the scene about a decade ago with millions of people across the country, not just in New York, but everywhere else, chanting slogans, "We are the 99%," and demanding action to break up the economic power of the 1%. And in the 2020 campaign, you heard plenty of it from the Democratic candidates running for president. They were calling for higher taxes on the wealthy and rolling back the Trump tax cut of 2017, which was extremely generous to the wealthy. Joe Biden himself was calling for $4 trillion in new taxes, mainly on the wealthy, but also raising corporate taxes. Somebody's already beaten him to the gun. When he gets in office, he may be doing something, but Bernie Sanders, who was Biden's chief rival in the Democratic nomination race, has already put a bill into Congress which he calls Make the Billionaires Pay Act. It would levy a one-time 60% levy on all those billionaire profits on that trillion-dollar game. Huge taxes. Pretty heavy, you say, but just remember, it would still leave them 40% better off than they were at the beginning of the year, and they were pretty well off back then. Well, that kind of a plan isn't going to go easy in Congress. Certainly Republicans in the Senate as well as in the House are going to oppose it. But it has picked up some interesting advocates, including one of those in the Billionaire Top 10 by Forbes magazine. Bill Gates, number 3, former Microsoft CEO, the third richest guy in the world, is saying it's time to update the American tax system and start by raising taxes on people like me, on billionaires like him. And if you happen to agree with Gates, maybe it's time to get in touch with your members of Congress and your senator and say you'd like to see some action. Things have gotten way out of whack. And whatever you do, please share our video with others in your network because people need to know about this. And thanks.